Hi, Jan Hendrik.
Hi, Robert. How are you?
A little bit frustrated. I was supposed to be here 10 minutes ago. I was. And there was supposed to be an assistant here to show me around and tell me how to use this stuff.
Okay.
But
I didn't.
it looks like I'm going to have to rely on my colleague in Kiel.
No problem. What are you looking for?
I don't know what to do.
Oh, you have to share the session. That's all.
Yes.
You can mute your microphone, and if you like, your camera using the microphone and the camera symbol down there, and that's all you have to do.
I mute my microphone and I mute my camera.
Yeah. So while talking, please don't do that. But while you're not talking, you can mute your microphone.
Okay.
And
Whoops. I can't hear you.
look, everyone is doing his job. Oksana's already showing her slides, and you just have to introduce her, and then you might mute your microphone.
I would love to do that, but I don't know how to get in to introduce her.
Do you have a program of the conference?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, and Oksana Banner's now going to present her presentation about implementing ERP and stuff.
Well, that's wonderful, but I thought I was supposed to say a few introductory words and then handle questions.
Yes, you can handle the questions after the presentation.
Okay.
And the participants will raise their hand. You can see those risen hands in the screen, or they are going to write their comments or questions into the chat. Do you know where the chat is?
No.
No. Okay. Lower right-hand side of your screen, you see some kind of comic text bubble. And if you click on that, then the chat window will open, and you can see all the chat that has shown or that has been written today.
Okay, so far nothing. And there's 17 teilnehmer are apparently present.
Can you see what I wrote in the chat?
Just a second. Hi, Robert.
Exactly.
Hi, Jan Hendrik. Hi.
Yeah, hi. Now, and if the participants have questions, they can raise their hand after the talk or write their comments or questions into the chat.
Okay.
That's the idea.
Okay, now I shut off my stuff and Oksana takes over.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Okay. Do you see my presentation?
Yes.
Okay.
It's perfect.
Okay, thank you. Let me introduce you to the results of our work. The theme of our work is implementing ERP simulation games in economic education, Ukrainian dimension. You can see, okay, the structure of the work on this slide. This work consists of 6 chapters. Let's take a look at each of them. First chapter, introduction. Competitiveness of graduates is one of the most important indicators of quality assurance in higher education institutions. Therefore, implementation of the latest techniques, methods, tools, technologies, forms, and systems into teaching and learning process currently has become quite a crucial issue. Moreover, a recent digital transformation or digitalization of business and rapid development of technologies have triggered reconsideration of the conventional approaches to educational process, namely a shift from traditional face-to-face or online lectures to more interactive methods of teaching and learning. One of such interactive teaching methods in economic education is so-called business simulation or business game, which simulates a real market where virtual companies can operate using a commercial version of such software as ERP, it's Enterprise Resource Planning Systems, that creates economic environment where students are expected to make strategic decisions, for example, as a real managers do. Simulation games helps students better understand how economic system works, allows them to try their hand and forecasting, gives them an opportunity to apply theoretical models to solving complex practical situations in the controlled low-risk environment. It's very important. About 10 years have passed since the first attempts of ERP SIM implementation in the educational process were made. So a review of research-related scientific publications over the past 10 years demonstrates increasing interest in to applying game approaches in teaching students majoring in economic studies. The effectiveness of the simulation approach in business education is proved by various studies. According to Nightingale, the use of simulation games in higher education institutions allows students not only to master decision-making competencies, but also to develop their problem-solving skills. Elsevier and Abbott demonstrate the gaming systems for peer compared to non-game learning tools proved to ensure better effectiveness in reaching learning outcomes by the students and moreover to lead to higher user satisfaction during the process of learning. Some authors show that using an ERP simulation game allows to achieve better results in obtaining all the competencies mentioned before. For example, Baumeister proved that ERP simulation games foster the development of students' methodological and social management competencies and positively impact obtaining skills of taking decisions under time constraints. The idea of decision-making quality improvement due to application of this approach to learning is shared by some authors. A number of studies present a proposal for the introduction of RPCM in the curriculum. Thus, there is a certain work practice regarding the implementation of the approach in educational process. In today's world, business digitalization is an integral part of a growing company. In recent years, such companies as SAP, Oracle, Microsoft, Infor, Epicor, Workday, and others, other market leaders in ERP systems. The variety and complexity of their programs lead to the need for additional user training. Therefore, the need to master such systems is determined by the urgent needs of companies. Although there are many ERP systems, all of them are united by algorithms of interaction between their elements, which form a single controlled mechanism. Thus, having mastered the skills of dealing with at least one ERP system, you can easily adapt to using another one if it's necessary. Thanks to HEC Montreal, which developed ERP sim games based on SAP ERP, understanding and mastering of other more complicated systems became possible. SAP offers universal systems, SAP ERP, SAP S/4HANA, SAP Fiori. For any sphere, they are based on the best practice and experience of the companies from all over the world. In recent years, the ERP game developed by the faculty at HEC Montreal has become widely used in more than 200 universities worldwide. Most researches on ERP gaming are based on the using of this game, ERP sim games. And here you can see it's Davenport et al. Identified 5 key competencies to make data-based decisions through using data from the enterprise systems, namely knowledge of the business, statistical and analytical skills, knowledge of data, technical skills, and communication partnering skills. Knowledge of the business provides a clear view of the fundamentals of contemporary companies' functions, basic business process for relevant data interpreting by the decision makers. The next, mathematical modeling and analytic skills include understanding of economic and mathematical methods and models for solving economic problems, and provide the ability to take informed decisions using model methodological tools. Awareness of data provides localization of the economic data for analysis, ensures awareness of what data are available and where they can be found. The next, technical skills include understanding of corporate and ERP software to extract and manipulate data. And finally, communication and partnering skills ensure coordination of employees while dealing with problems or making decisions. The positive impact of using simulation games for acquiring all these competencies is proven by the results of practical application of this approach. We analyzed the main general and specific competencies required by the standard of higher education for 5.1 economics major, the scale of economics. The results of the analysis show that 8 out of 13 general competencies are related to the mentioned key competencies, and only 3 out of 14 specific ones are not directly related to key ERP competencies. This table outlines interrelation between competencies required by the standard of higher education and key competencies of ERP simulation games. It goes without saying that these competencies require certain grounding in the different academic courses, such as business, technological, statistical, and mathematical ones. For example, students of 051 economic major acquire knowledge of the business in such mandatory courses as economic theory, microeconomics, business economics, accounting, finance, marketing, and management. Statistical and analytic skills are mastered in the following mandatory courses as statistics, econometrics, and in a number of elective courses such as operation research. Knowledge of data and technical skills. Next. Connected with the mandatory course of information technology and economics, and such other elective courses as decision support systems, information modeling of economy, and so on. Communication and partnering are obtained in the framework of such mandatory courses as management, information technology, and English for specific purposes. All the mentioned courses develop such competencies as understanding of business, valid strategic and operational decision making. Thus, introducing OFRP games will allow to improve these skills. HEC Montreal has 4 simulation games. You can see these games. It's distribution, logistics, manufacturing, and real games, retail game. Each of them has the appropriate number of rounds and has appropriate business processes. ERP simulation games appear in different types, shapes, and complexity. The duration of one game can range from one class to several weeks or even the whole semester. It can have a linear structure when problem situations appear one by one. However, it's also possible to link problem situations so that the consequences of decisions in one situation affect another one. Students go through several cycles of decision making to understand how to manage the system by themselves. However, they can adjust their actions in line with the teacher's feedback. Real business situations as learning scenarios are very difficult to use in education due to certain factors that complicate the instant performance evaluation. Due to the fact that reality is usually quite complicated, students in a simulation game are offered a simplified model. Imitation of reality, which forms a starting point for them to master certain skills. And despite these simplifications, the main features of the real situation are preserved. It should be mentioned that computer business simulation appeared to be a more effective strategy than traditional methods of teaching and learning, as well as internships. The reason is in its ability to impact on the affective sphere, causing emotions such as pleasure, excitement, anger, and joy. Traditional learning mainly affects the cognitive sphere of learning without proper attention to the emotional component. The simplest free distribution game, the first game, deals with the complete business cycle, like planning, procurement, and sales process. In particular, players run a wholesale distribution company that sells bottled water, competing with other wholesales or other teams. It's other teams to meet consumer demand and maximize profits. In order to form effective strategies, students need to have in-depth knowledge of such courses as microeconomics, marketing, business economics, accounting, management, econometrics, operation research, decision support systems, and methods. In the next game, logistics game. In this game, in this introduction here we have 3 games. The first, logistics introduction. The team will run a commercial dairy company. Processes of purchase, distribution, logistics, and sales of dairy products are considered. In the game, logistics extended, students need to perform 3 processes. It's planning and purchasing, regional products transfer, and pricing. However, in the logistics platinum scenario, starting from the second round, students will need to perform the full planning, purchasing, and sales distribution business cycle. Practical application of knowledge occurred in such courses as microeconomics, econometrics, management, marketing, business economics, accounting, operation research, decision support systems, and methods might enable players to win in the game. In the game, manufacturing introduction, the team is engaged in the production and sales of various types of muesli on the German market. At the beginning of the scenario, the team focuses only on sales and distribution. In the second round, production is taken under control. In the third round, the raw materials needed for production should be planned and procured. During all rounds, the team will sell its products to a chain of grocery stores located in 3 regions of Germany. And for example, the game retail has certain specific features according to the according to the rules of this game, the teams participate in the purchase and sales of various professionals items for men and women on the German market. It's necessary to take into account the seasonality of the garment industry. The seasonality of the garment industry should be taken into account. However, in the extended retail extended scenario, forecasting should be done from the very beginning. For this game, students will need some knowledge in econometrics, management, business economic accounting, operation research, decision support systems, and methods. It's important that students in teams can have different roles. This is provided by SAP ERP itself, and there are operations to which only one team member currently has access. Therefore, the coordinated work of the whole team is very important. For example, the logistics platinum game allows to have...
Roxana, you have about 4 or 5 minutes left, so please start to wind up your talk.
Okay, here let's consider the approaches to development of the models of ERP simulation games in introduction into a teaching and learning process in the framework of the educational program Economic Cybernetic. Here we have two models. The Economic Cybernetics educational program is aimed at enabling students to build systemic worldview, to understand scientific approaches to economic problem solving using mathematical models and up-to-date IT methods, as well as modern computer control methods, and to take effective management decisions. This outlines the direct interconnection of the aims and objectives of the educational program and the aims and objectives of using ERP simulation games. The specific feature of this research is a study of interdisciplinary teaching of opportunities, however, not in the framework of business courses, which is fully described by some researchers, but in terms of the courses to mathematical modeling in economics, quantitative methods in economics, in order to test the given approach to decision-making support in real practical situations. Okay. Here illustrated for games, some illustrated, and I want to say that safe the controlled low risk environment allows students on the one hand to experiment with taking tactical and strategic decisions that will not lead to real consequences, possibly negative, while on the other hand, learners can see how their recommendations may impact companies' performance, as well as they can understand the interconnection of all factors. Thus, game simulations give an opportunity to students to benefit from low-risk learning through doing. Okay, thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions?
Oksana, thank you very much. We have a couple of questions here. The first one is from Vitaly Kovets, so I'll switch his microphone on. I'm trying to switch it on. There you go.
Yes, thank you, Robert. I'm very glad to see you. And I would like to ask my first question. Thank you for presentation. Thank you for your research. I could see only the last part of your presentation. At the same time, I have one question. Can you use your gamification approach for all types of economic disciplines or only for specific ones? For example, only for disciplines of economic cybernetic specialization?
These games you can use only different for different disciplines, like as business. It's not you can. You can use. Not only disciplines, economics for for economic cybernetics. You can use these games, for example, for basic disciplines. It's economic theory, operation research, marketing, macroeconomics, but this way you can see this research for using for basic disciplines. You can see this research was described by some researcher, but the specific of our work is using use these games for economic cybernetics.
Okay, thank you, Oksana. There are a couple of more questions. I think we only have time to take one. And the next person in order is Andriy Burachenko. I'm going to switch his microphone on for you right now. Whoops, I'm trying to, there we go.
Thank you.
Thank
you,
Andriy,
Robert.
can you hear?
Thank you, Robert.
Okay.
Oksana, thank you for your presentation. Really interesting. You have thought that your idea implementation is presented within educational program economic cybernetics. What other, what do you think? What other programs could be appropriate for this? Thank you.
Yes, of course. You can use these games. You can adapt these games for another programs. This it's not difficult because we have different different games, and for example, distribution games you can use for different students which studies on different programs. It's the simplest game distribution, and it's easy to understand. This game can be played only. You can use only one hour and 20. This game consists of, for example, 3 rounds, and each round is 20 minutes, or it's 20 simulation days, 20 simulation days, and our day it's 1 minute. So you have for this game 20 minutes multiplied by 3, it's 60 minutes. But you have to have additional time for breaks between rounds. This time you need for discuss results with students. And And okay, so
Thank you for your
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you very much, Oksana. I'm going to have to break it off here so that we don't infringe on the other presenters' times who are going to be following you. One of the people who is listening, however, is Jan-Hendrik Meyer, and I know both he and I use ERP planning games extensively in our teaching here in Germany, and perhaps we could communicate with you via email after the conference and exchange some of our experiences. Our next presenter is, or actually the next paper, as you can see from the program, Developing an Algorithm for the Management of Local Government Expenditures. It's by Andriy Buryachenko and Tatiana Payenko. And Tatiana will be presenting. And I want to switch her microphone on. But I don't, there it goes. Okay, very good.
Thank you very much, Robert, for introducing my paper. And now I have a question. Do you see my presentation?
Yes, I can see your presentation.
Yes, yes, we see.
Okay, thank you very much. Because sometimes we have technical issues here and presentations don't move. This paper was prepared together with my colleague Andriy Buryachenko, and I have a presentation in the afternoon already about different topic. And after this presentation, we started joking with my colleague that COVID pandemic affected our research, because now we're trying to do research in the area which we can sell something. Actually, this presentation is also one of the examples, because it was accepted as an industrial report because it's more about practical implication of IT technology in local governance. So I'm going to tell you a very short about motivation. Why do we do this? Why do we care about this topic? I briefly explain literature review, the methodological approach, and also interim results and conclusions and possible future discussion. So regarding our motivation, it's a very specific topic, and probably for our colleagues from highly decentralized Germany and with long tradition of local governments, it's not a very crucial topic. But for post-communist countries, it's a very important topic, because these countries, they used to be very centralized. And well, let's say I can tell that communism really affected people's minds, and it's complicated for people now to take responsibilities in local governments. It's complicated to make decisions, and even if it's related to their own lives. This is why they just keep learning this. And even from Ukrainian perspective, I can tell that it takes more than 30 years. But now, I mean, not right now, but I can tell that last 5 years, I can see a strong move in decentralization. I can see the more responsibilities from the people, from the local governments. Now I see, let's say, smaller power distances, at least at local level, not at central level, still need some work to do. But at local level, people understand that the local government, it's actually the efficiency of the results of local government work. It's also responsibility of each citizen. And this is one side. The other side, if you talk about money redistribution, if you talk about budget, first of all, it's a lot of information, and this to process this information, we definitely need to apply information technology. Second, if you talk about money redistribution and keeping in mind that it's post-communist countries, we understand that it's high risk of corruption. This is why the need of IT, the need of computer technology here, it's due to several factors. First of all, it's process a lot of information. Second, to make this process transparent and local government accountable to the people. The aim of this paper is develop an algorithm to computerize the process of allocating the limited resources according to the needs of a community. So basically, our main research question is how taxpayers' funds can be redistributed at the local level efficiently using IT technology. Again, talking about literature review, it was very interesting to study this topic. Actually, it's very complicated to apply some of the results which we obtained by our Western colleagues due to several reasons. First of all, if we talk about criteria of optimal redistribution of taxpayer funds, there are several the most popular directions where research goes. It's redistribution and long-term effects on the local governments, on the community's development. It's connection between redistribution and corruption. It's effects of decentralization and economic growth. It's about capacity to support economic growth at local level. If you talk about all these different results which were obtained by different researchers, most of the research was done using data from developed countries. It's different community, it's different situation, and yes, those results are very valuable, but we can't apply a lot in post-communist countries, just because it's a different institutional environment. Same conclusion we made when we studied related literature related to application of IT technologies. Yes, I found a lot of interesting research regarding how computer technology can improve transparency and accountability. Very interesting examples of application, artificial intelligence, very interesting ideas of application, blockchains, and I can tell that now we can see the boom of literature about e-governance and including local governments. But we still have some problems, and those problems, they are significant because quite often local governments, they simply don't have enough money to buy very expensive software. They simply don't have money to pay for development that software, and sometimes they even do not have very up-to-date hardware to apply a modern software. So it's basically like we're stuck with the problem, like, yes, we need to do something, we need to help them to improve this process, we need to apply computer technology, but at the same time we start dealing with the limited resources just at the stage of the implementation of this idea. Regarding the methodology, again, we studied a number of papers about methodology which can be used as a heart of our algorithm, and basically what can be used. It's a planning approach, which quite popular, especially in the Eastern countries and Asian countries, but also it's about but also this approach has certain limitations, because one of the crucial problems in post-communist countries, it's trust problems between taxpayers and local governments. Therefore, just plain approach, it's not enough, because we need to make citizens feel that they are included in this process, like they have choice. They can participate in the process of redistribution or not, it's up to them. But if they participate, they see results, and it's like basically there is the efficiency of local government, it's kind of their responsibility as well. Also, I would like to say that the methodology which we are presenting today, it's part of the let's say real world application. So this is working out algorithm which is already used by small local communities, and some elements of this methodology is already used in Kyiv. I saw that some participants are from Kyiv. They're familiar with the idea of voting for some projects which are funded from local budgets. So it's basically the same idea. I mean, part of this approach is already used also in Kyiv. What is the main idea of our methodology? So we try to make the choice of the criteria for optimal allocation of funds as most as possible to close to the people. So this is why the main criteria is utility. So basically, the citizens are supposed to express their opinion how important this particular public services for them, and the public services of particular quality. Of course, we can't give everything in the hands of citizens. So basically, right now, this algorithm is applicable only to part of funds, because the other part of funds, it has restriction to be used. For example, like salaries for people who work for public sectors at local level, and some let's say compulsory budgetary programs, so that algorithm is not applied. But if you have some services which can be funded by choice, so it's already applied. I would like to start describing these stages of the algorithm. So basically, if you speak about the first stage, the planning process starts with selecting the services that has the maximum utility for the majority of citizens, and based on the provision of the median water theory. And a method of expert assessments should be applied to evaluate the utility of consumption of the services, and where the experts or respondents are mainly the beneficiaries of these services themselves. The choice can be made by asking respondents to assess the completeness and quality of services provided by local government, and the respondents in this case should be the residents of communities concerned and the beneficiaries of public services. So again, this is already implemented in this voting process in Kyiv, because, for example, to vote for certain project, you need to prove that you pay taxes in Kyiv, so you belong to this community. It means that computer system already separate people who not belong to the community. At the first stage of the local budget optimization process, the initial data is supposed to be input in the system, and the initial data is comprised of the cost of public services per iteration and budget constraint, and the cost per unit for each public service provided by local government. Again, and the results of the experiment, which is shown in the presentation, it's just four types of public services. But the general algorithm can be applied to as many public services as necessary. The next stage of the planning is calculation of marginal utility changes. In our example, we calculated those changes for 4 types of services. But again, the same calculations can be made for the bigger number of services. And the results which you see on the slide, they base it on the survey, which was redistributed between participants. And for this particular experiment, we used the survey which was redistributed among the member of communities using emails, social media, and regular posts. We use different channels because this is how we can involve as many people as possible. Because if we want to attract responses from young people, it's better to use social media. For some people who are not very active on social media, probably emails would be a better idea. And of course, if it's a small community like a village, we have people who are not very familiar with emails, who don't have any accounts in social media. We use regular post, and the response rate was quite high. Of course, we can't reach the 100% response rate, but it doesn't breach the principle of optimal distribution because almost everybody has a chance to be involved in the evaluation process. At the next stage of the algorithm, we calculate the marginal utility for each additional service, and in the same time, we control the budget constraint, because the main idea, like, we repeat this iteration again and again until we reach the optimal use of funds, but in the same time we don't exceed amount of money which is available for use. The results of our research is currently can be used for development of software for the local governments, and this algorithm is kind of universal, and we already received a very good feedback from some local governments. I can tell that the most complicated part of this process, it's not the calculation of utility, it's not the calculation of marginal utility for iterations, because it's basic formulas. But the most complicated part is to obtain results from the participants, from the local community. And this stage, it should be implemented, and it should be improved. And now we work more. Now we work more on this idea how to attract more people and make this process of collecting data less expensive, to make it cheaper, because right now I can tell that after after conducting the first experiment, the first stage is quite expensive. But I hope that we can achieve some better results in the future, and probably on the next ICTERI will present updated algorithm and software for this process. Thank you very much for your attention. I try to keep my timing, and I'm ready for questions.
Okay, Vitaly, I see that you have your hand raised. Please direct your question to Tanya.
Thank you, Robert. Tatiana, thank you very much for your presentation and for a very interesting approach for local services. I have two questions. You told about measurement of utility, and you told in conclusions what you use benchmark for this goal. So my first question is, how did you measure utility from services?
It's evaluation of respondents, and we use a grade like from 0 to 10.
So it's some range of
It's
some.
range.
Okay, thank you. And one more question concern utility maximization. You told about marginal utility, and how did you use law of utility maximization when you got optimal number of services? What does it mean, optimal number of services? For example, marginal utility equals 0, or ratio of marginal utility to cost equal for all public goods, or something else?
It was ratio of marginal utility to costs, because we used also budget constraint, and so the major constraint is not to exceed the budget available. This is why we can't we can't make everybody happy, but we have to be able to make happy as much as possible using this amount of money. This is why, yes, it can be like 100%, because we still have to give up some services, or at least a part of the services.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. So if marginal utility is negative, but budget is very big, so could you extend numbers of these services?
Yes, we can actually, but in reality, right now, we didn't have that situation.
Budget is limited. Thank you.
Very limited. So we didn't reach a situation when the marginal utility is negative.
Thank you so much.
Maybe if Ukraine become richer in the future, that would be the case. But thank you for the good point. I think we should consider it now, and it's including our algorithm.
Okay, we will hope that marginal utility equals 0. It must be enough. Thanks.
Tanya, I don't see other questions in the chat at this point, and so I'd like to use the chair's prerogative to ask a question myself.
You're welcome, Robert.
I wonder about your underlying assumption that the utility declines with the provision of additional units of service. For example, the utility of telecommunications, including the internet, obviously increases with the more users having access to it. Or, for example, perhaps vaccinations in public health, they increase up to something close to herd immunity, and perhaps the decline in marginal utility first sets in at 75% or 80% of vaccinations. How would that affect your model?
Thank you very much for the question. Well, actually, again, it's a good point. As I said at the beginning, we use this model for the specific market, for post-communist countries. And even the example with vaccination, it doesn't work in Ukraine because we have a lot of people who are against the vaccination. But yes, I actually, honestly, we didn't think about that because currently all services which are included in model, they have declining marginal utilities. Like the more you have, the less you're happy with that. But yeah, we will think about that. Thank you very much for the good suggestion.
Does anyone else have a question for Professor Payenko? Okay, I don't see any additional questions. I want to thank you very much for your presentation. Thank both of you, Andrei, also for your interesting paper. And we're now on to the third paper, which is an intelligent method for forming the advertising content of higher education institutions based on semantic analysis. Unfortunately, on the program, I don't have any information about who the presenter is. Is Is there someone here who's going to present?
Yes, it's me. Taras
It's
Lendyuk will
Taras?
present.
Taras?
Yes,
Okay,
Taras
thank
Lendyuk
you
will
very
present.
much, Taras. I give you the floor. I beg your pardon. Taras, you please feel free to present. Okay, here we go.
So my name is Taras Lendyuk and I present paper Intelligent Method of Advertising Contents Forming of Higher Education Institution on Semantic Analysis basis, submitted for 17th International Conferences on IT in Education, Research and Industrial Applications. Today is a condition of unstable development of the country's economy, as well as in accordance with the new legislation in the field of higher education, the market of educational services in increasingly hard competition for potential customers for entrants who entered the university. In order to effectively promote advertising of and educational services, higher educational institutions must use modern information and communication technologies. One of such tools is the effective formation of advertising text. Advertising text has a certain structure, which consists of two main components: slogan, some introductory part or title, and quote, main part, and some conclusions, which formally are divided on the advertising text at the beginning and end. It is important that the text was interesting for the right audience. For this one, it is needed to know the opinion of the target audience. The formation of opinion from the surveys takes a lot of time for sociologists, but the methods of text semantic analysis can form the text main idea faster and identify some keywords on the basis of which advertising contents can be formed. In this regard, we can assume that the development of the intelligent method of advertising contents generating the higher education institution based on semantic analysis is relevant and allowed to increase the advertising effectiveness and thus reduce the cost of online advertising of higher education institutions. The novelty of the work is formation the most profitable in some economic aspect text of advertising, which will reduce the advertising campaign costs. To reduce the time spent on choosing popular new products, the authors has developed an intelligent method of advertising contents forming the higher education institution based on semantic analysis. The proposed method is illustrated schematically, and it is represented by the following steps. Step 1. Student surveys conducted, which is block number 1, and it's converted to CSV format. Step number 2, tokenization of the document, block number 3. Tokens are very useful for finding patterns and are considered as the basic step for justification and lemmatization. Lemmatization of the document is conducted in block 5. And this block is conducted with block number 4 for process of transforming a word into basic form. This approach is highly dependent on the exact definition of lexical category. Although there is a partial overlap between the normalization rules for some lexical categories, the identification of an incorrect category or the inability to determine the correct category reduced to the comment of the advantage of the approach over the algorithm of ending truncation. Step number 4, the process of ignoring single characters, which interfere with the program on the base on the ready-made set of stop words. We removed some stop words or some symbols, for example, dot, comma, semicolon. Stop words are very common block, for example, we, are, they, use. Usually it is possible to delete these words without changing text semantics, but not always, for improving the model performance. Step number 5, document vectorization. It is block 8. Convert a collection of raw documents into matrix of TDF functions, where TF, term frequency, and IDF, inverse document frequency, a statistical indicator used to access the word importance in the document contents that is a part of collection of documents or corpus. Step number 6, semantic analysis. It is block number 8. Reducing the data dimensionality. It is block 8.1. For semantic analysis, we use block LSA. The dimension reducing method is the method of single value decomposition, SVD, which calculates only k largest unit values, where k is a user-defined parameter. And topic modeling in the text on the LDA method, where it is latent derived allocation, is a method of matrices decomposition. In the vector space, any corpus documents collection can be represented as a matrix documents terms. The LDA convert the documents matrices into two matrices of lower size. Output steps number 7 is output of keywords, block 9, block 10 of the documents based on both methods. And step 8, advertising context forming for higher education institutions. Python language was chosen for semantic analysis to conduct an intelligent method of advertising contents forming of higher education institutions. The following libraries were used: Pandas, NumPy, Map2Lib, stopwords. As input, we use student survey of majoring in computer science regarding admission. 150 students almost took part into the survey and answered 10 questions. All students' feedback is formed in CSV format. Answers of each questionnaire was put on a separate line of text, then defined as a document. The document was lemmatized using the WordNet lemmatizate function. Next, the data was cleaned for the presence of characters which do not affect the text contents, for example, dot, comma, exclamation mark, and other. The next step is to remove the Ukrainian stopwords. In slide number 6, we used TF-IDF vectorized function from Python, which converts a collection of raw documents into a matrix of TF-IDF functions. In the next step, figure 4, we reduce the dimension using truncated SVD. It was LSA. We used LSA, latent semantic analysis. This transformer reduced the linear dimension using truncated specific value decomposition. Unlike PCA, this estimator does not center data before calculation a specific value decomposition. This means that it can work efficiently with sparse matrices. In particular, the truncated SVD works of TF-ADF matrices returned by vectorizers. In this context, it is known as latent semantic analysis, LSA. Next, the text was analysis based on LDA method on figure 5. Using the latent Dirichlet allocation function, the following parameters are defined. The desired dimension of original data documents and components was equal 5. Method used to update components. If the amount of data is large, online update will be much faster than batch update. Learning method was online, and the maximum number of iteration is max iteration. It was equal 1. Slide 6 shows the most keywords are present in document 0 based on latent semantic analysis, 66%. Based on the LDA method, the vast majority of keywords are presented in document 2 was 82%. Now it is needed to get a list of important words for each of 5 documents, was on figure 7, based on the LSA and LDA method. Let's choose 5 words for each topic for simplicity. To compare the effectiveness of the generated advertising content based of LSA and LDA method, a comparative experiment was conducted on Facebook on the business page of our computer science of our university, which is West Ukrainian National University, which is ZUNU in Ukrainian. The first version of advertising was developed on the basis of rules identified in the previous research, namely the greatest interaction with the video Facebook advertising. We know computer science had male in the age category of 18-25 and 25-55 years. And the largest interaction with the business page, Facebook page of our computer science at our university, Facebook page, had male and female clients in age of 40-55 age. So here you can see on screen screenshot of our Facebook page. Type 1 presents effectiveness comparisons of the generated advertising contents based of LSA and LDA method. In the period from January 4 of this year, almost it was all working days of January, was conducted an advertising campaign with a lot of text contents. In the period from February 1 to February 28, an advertising campaign was conducted with the text content developed on the basis of LSA and LDA method. Average increased by almost 500 of people. It was on table 1. The average number of times each user saw our advertising increased by 0.0002 per person. The number of items the ad reached is goal setting and setting results was increased by 4 instant messaging. This is really not much, but take into account smart budget of the advertising campaign and the target audience specific, the result is quite good. According to the price for the result was decreased by 0.44 cents, which is the amount taken into account the increase in coverage by 0.02 cents less. Accordingly, the average cost per 1,000 of impressions decreased by 0.14 cents. The number of clicks on links is in advertisement that resulted in landing page selected by the administrator within the outside Facebook decreased by 3. This result an increase in the cost per click on the link which is not critical, respectively the proportion of people who reviewed ad and click on the link decreased for 0.09. From the result of comparing the effectiveness of the generated advertising contents, we can conclude that the effectiveness of advertising increased by 44% and the price of the result decreased by 31%. And some conclusions. An intelligent method of the advertising contents forming of higher education institutions based on semantic analysis has been developed. On this base, of which the advertising manager can from advertising content, and thus the effectiveness of the announcements has increased. Also, the proposed method reduces the time spent on assessing student questionnaires and determining the main idea regarding admission. The implementation of the method is based on student survey of majoring of computer science regarding admission. So as I told you, 152 students took part in survey. Cleaning of unnecessary symbols and stopwords was conducted. After tokenization, vectorization, and lemmatization of documents were conducted. Document semantic analysis based on LCA and LDA method was performed. Most keywords presents in document 0 based on the LCA method was 36%. Based on LDA method, the vast majority of keywords presented in document 2 was 82%. The effectiveness of the generated advertising contents of the basis of LSA and LDA method was compared. A comparative experiment was conducted on Facebook on the UNO computer science business page. From the results of comparing the effectiveness of the generated advertising contents, the effectiveness of the advertising increased by 44% and the price of the result decreased by 21%. In contrast to analogs, the intelligent method of forming the advertising contents of higher education institutions based on semantic analysis has been developed, what allowed to select keywords on the basis of which is possible to form an advertising text. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much, Lendiak. That was an interesting paper. Are there questions for Professor Lendiak? Vitaly, is that a signal from you? Okay, let me turn on your microphone. There you go.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Robert, I would like to ask one question. It's a very interesting presentation, very applicable. So my question is, what decisions were prepared by administration of university after processing of students' responses, which were useful for advertisement of higher educational institution?
I think there was no special administrative decision. This year we admitted 3 groups of students. It was a great success because 2 years ago we have less than 20 students. Year ago we have 2 groups. Now we have 3 groups, about 70 persons.
Thank you. Did you use only information from your, for example, social network of university, or maybe you used more broad information from other resources too?
Yes, we use information from different sources. When our when people of school passed independent testing, we go to different schools and inviting them, give some printed information or give QR code to our business page.
Thank you. And last question, did you use this information to revise, for example, your study programs or content of your disciplines, etc.?
I don't know. Personally, I don't use this information.
Thank you. Thank you very much for interesting research.
Taras, I'm a little bit nonplussed by the lack of administrative decisions taken in response to the increased demand for your programs. As somebody who has to do teaching, as well as other responsibilities, an increase of 3 times in the numbers of students from one year to the next normally would have consequences in terms of classroom space, in terms of the number of instructors or the number of teaching hours or contact hours with those students. Did you have sufficient excess capacity that you could just absorb this large increase in students? Or are you essentially being your success in changing the advertising has led to greater exploitation of you as a teaching resource, and the university says, thank you very much, Taras?
Yes, university thank us, but we have less teacher loading now.
Oh, okay. I see Andrei has a question for you as well. Andrei?
Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Thank you, Taras, for your interesting presentation. From your point of view, to what extent new students' admission depends on the program title?
I think it is work of team.
Mm-hmm.
We have new teacher. She is very energized, and this year we conducted a lot of different online meetings with, in different schools, and we are traveling, and we show different equipment, for example, for Internet of Things, different drones, remote plants, which are remote flowers, and we can water these flowers by internet from a great distance.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there further questions for Taras? Okay, then thank you very much. And it's quite a large group of researchers who collaborated on your paper. And thank you to all of your colleagues who collaborated with you as well. I see that Gana Karlamova is present already. Gana, if you're ready, we can proceed directly to your paper. We're a little bit ahead of time, but perhaps we can use that time to go into greater depth on your paper as well.
Yes, Robert, thank you. I am ready, and I would like to spread my thankfulness on behalf of my colleagues, Andris Stavitsky and Elena Commandant, who as well were authors of this paper that I will present on their behalf as well. And I would like to thank the organizers, to chairman of this meeting, for this ability to think forward about the issues that were our scientific and practical interest for some long period. And the title of the report is Aligning Higher Education in Ukraine with Demands for Data Science Workforce, but mostly we will concentrate on some case that we could propose, like some kind of solutions to Ukrainian higher education universities. And the most important that we really are trying to implement this program, and even on the preliminary surveys we see that there is an interest to this kind of education. Especially if we would propose this kind of program in online regime. I guess you know that there are a lot of debates, especially on the issues of top management and teachers, what is preferable, offline or online education, and should we move forward to online issues, or should we defend the traditional offline education in the rooms. So all this we will try to implement altogether in our case. So today I would come from short introduction to some highlighting of existing practices, then according to the very brilliant advices that were sent to all participants, how to manage the presentation to magnitude its impact. We managed to highlight the questions that's supposed to be answered during our talk, then some kind of concept framework, presenting solutions, and conclusions as usual that are devoted to discussion, milestones, and further suggestions. Of course, here we have mostly people who deal with some kind of information technologies, data science, big data analysis, and I guess for us it's there is no doubt that this is the future that is here today. But if we have a look on the issues that are happening now in higher education institutions of Ukraine, and maybe it's not just Ukrainian problem, mostly in the world, we will see that despite World Economic Forum highlighted that the future is in the search for specialists in data science analysis, but not just these, but soft skills as well are very important for the future specialists. Despite we see that digitalization is coming close to us, and we have the fourth era of development, despite we know that most reliable agencies like Frost and Sullivan and etc., they say that the most money, the most salaries will be in the future in BDA, so big data analysis, data science, and the demand is really huge for data science analysts, and the percent of employers who really believe that data science analytic skills will be required to all managers, not only for those who work with data, but for the whole majority of managers. And if we have a look in finance here, mostly the second one that was surveyed is really this person really believes that the data science is important skill for the manager and for finance worker. In marketing, in operation managers, still there are high percents of demand for people who really are smart in sense of data science. And if we have a look, and we browsed a lot of literature on this, there are two actually trends. First trend is that, of course, digitalization is very important, or digital study, new knowledge, they say so. So the higher education should adapt to this, but some scientists really argue that it should be in the level of engineering faculties, and then on the courses like MOOC, etc., where you can boost your other skills. But we see now that, for example, economy and financial technologies, they're boosting now, especially the current time, this lockdown period, they really pushed the necessity in this kind of products. And that's why we do insist in our presentation, and it's really our position, that the graduating of the specialist in data science could be not just only on the engineering faculties, but it should be broadly maintained and proposed on the faculties like social science, economic science. And there are some experience already, very good cases where and really there is good demand for this kind of programs, but there are still too little amount of them. If, for example, have a look in the Ukraine, we will see that mostly such programs of large companies are proposed in the market that provide personal professional growth for their listeners, like Vodafone, Big Data Lab, as well Kyiv School of Economics, but too little of them are at the other, at the official universities, say so. And once again, it's not just Ukrainian problem; it's quite broadcasted issue. So the questions to be answered during not just our presentation and not just inside of our paper, but generally, these questions claimed that not encounting not just technical component, engineering component in the programs for DCA specialists, that should include soft skills and economic skills besides the technical component, because as usually we see that the technical component is quite strong, hard skills, but there is a lack and some weakness in the understanding of business process and economic issues. And a lot of companies try to invest in the upgrading of such specialists. But the market is really open, and if, for example, we would like that our graduates, and I know that mostly here we have representatives of Ukrainian universities that really have programs in data science, ICT, etc. So I know that most of you are here, and that's why we should make some glance in the direction of soft and economic skills in the programs. And of course, it should be maintained as an economically demanding curricula. And of course, we see that in Ukraine, nothing to say in Ukraine, but in the world, there will be high market success of the specialist who has a combination of economics, mathematics, information systems knowledge, new data science knowledge, and soft skills as well. So when we tried to maintain some kind of concept framework for our analysis, first of all, we tried to jump from the issues that are presented on the table. So this kind of statistical data proved for us that we're in the right direction. And we as well made a background in the new computer human economy postulates and some positions And as well, we understand that now in the digital world, there is the great change of the role of the person, not only in the human behaving, actually like a human being, but as well like a person at the work, so job person. Absolutely different requirements are now. And even if you have this online kind of interaction between us, still we have a lot of a huge list of skills that should be additionally added to our hard skills. For example, it's not just knowledge of the program environment, for example, or Google Meet, Zoom, whatever. We as well should be aware on the how to behave here, what cultural issues, what ethic issues are here, how to deal with this. So this is soft skills as well. So this it's quite obvious maybe for us because mostly we hear are professors of the universities with great background, but for young people, I guess you would agree to having online lectures and seminars. For young people, for young specialists, it's really supposed to be inside of the programs, and they should be ready for such kind of innovations in their study process, in their interaction with their colleagues at the work. So everything is changing much more quicker than our higher education programs and institutions are adapting actually. So the market, the modern market requires a new level of specialists, and it's already screaming on this, and that's why our university is supposed to react on this. So main message to be learned on the base what we are presenting, on based on what we have analyzed, that there is a great need for professionals who can use and implement complex mechanisms of machine learning, system analysis, analytics, statistics, and other sciences, and in the economic field, in real business process, in real enterprising, because here we now we are coming to consumer economy. It's not just manufacturing. We have high development of creative economy. We have high development of issues that are not the same that used to be in the previous century. That means that something new should be adapted to the new reality. And for example, if of course there is a great trend in the on the digitalization in the education, and you can see the slide where were presented main impacts of the digitalization on education sector. And it's really existing now, and whether we wish or not wish this, still like professors, as universities, as higher education institutions, we adapt and are inside of these wheels of impacts. But not just gathering, analyzing, and drawing practical conclusions from data is important for the current modern specialist on the market, but as well the ability to communicate these findings. Of course, you do agree and argue that mostly if we open our learning outcomes of our programs, you would see there that the main skill that the most programs form is the ability, especially for master degree students, the ability to form the presentation, to hold the project, and to present the result. But still, there is, and those who work for our National Agency of Accreditation, I guess you would agree, there is still a lack of real programs, real components of subject that do support this issue, especially if we talk about technical specializations. And on the other hand, we still have a tiny amount of data science programs to make some conclusions that on these programs there is not just data science skills formed, hard skills, but as well there are a lot of subjects that and courses that support the forming of these communicative skills that are really in the demand. So we see the methodological gap in this, not practical gap, but as well methodological gap. We see in the necessity to put in the list of components for DCA training social and economic skills to form a very competitive master degree graduates for the market, for international market. Methodological base, of course, is APEC recommendations for DCA competencies, World Economic Forum Skills 2030, surveys of business roundtables, and the most important, we put our grounds on the state standards for specialty of economics, the 051, the law on higher education of Ukraine, and we as well put the base of the educational program Economics Cybernetics that is currently exists at the Faculty of Economics at Rashevchenko National University of Kyiv. According to modern requirements to data science, there are such list of the main technical skills. I won't stop on this because here we have just experts in this field and you are fully aware of this. But we propose in our program for the economic faculty, for DCA master degree program at the economic faculty, we propose such an approximate model of learning. Of course, those who are really interested in this would find all details in the paper itself, and I do appreciate the advices that were told in the emails to participants according to the rules how to organize your presentations. Here I really advertise our paper for those who are a bit curious what is more inside of the program, because we presented their full credit program. But here you can see that one detects, you see here, 1, 3, detects here where we form, with what courses we form technical skills. Point 2 says us about business and organizational skills, and point 3 says us about workplace skills or new central skills, communicative skills. And as well, I would like to highlight, to make the stress that inside of real program at the economic faculty, where we have some demands for the percentage of disciplines of the field 051 economics, and as well we have our requirements inside of our economic cybernetics department, we still manage to create quite powerful DCA program that could be taught in Ukrainian, in English, it doesn't matter, that really supports most modern tendencies. You see Python in data science, you see decision theory, applied economics, statistical analysis. So mostly we concentrate on three main pillars: economics, skills, workplace skills, and technical skills. We really think, we do believe that the development of DCA master programs is really the Klondike for higher educations in the closest period, especially if they would provide it in English to support competitive advantage for graduates, and maybe to invite some foreign professors for presenting modern world tendencies, and especially if they would make it like online education, changing just statutes of the education institutions on the point how to present the material, not just in rooms but online. It will broad issues, and of course here you would find some issues that would help the proposed program to be implemented, really implemented in Ukraine. That should be, of course, encountered from the Ministry of Higher Education up to the level of the faculties. And as well, we do realize the limitations. Despite how brilliant idea is, or maybe less brilliant, but still there is a necessity in the demand survey for such programs among young people. Because just recently, in the previous reports, we mentioned that sometimes we have a shortage of students, then we do some activities, and we have an increasing of the students. But we are not sure what factors really impacted this increasing. For example, the economic faculty, we sometimes, some periods we have the experience that we really open very attractive, at least in title, as Professor mentioned quite exactly, that title is very attractive for students, but still we have the lack of those who apply, of applicants on these programs. Who knows why? Of course, it should be surveyed, and as well to these specialities, to data science, to big data analysis. For example, personally, I know that Vodafone, they have a huge amount of interest on the first year. Then it was less and less, and despite they propose quite massive advertising, they have the decrease in the interest of potential applicants. And of course, that should be surveyed and could be the limitation for our proposal. As well, despite the claimed autonomy of the universities in Ukraine, the changes in the existing programs, the launching of new ones, is still a great challenge that is mostly maintained on the personal impact of the person on the university level. You should agree it with the dean, you should agree with the management, and they should favor you in this idea. So there is still a potential gap in this. So this is our idea. I do hope that we would find some supporters of it as well. And thank you.
Are there questions for, am I pronouncing this correctly, Hannah? Is it Hannah?
Yes, Gun.
Hannah is
Gun, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Karlamova. Are there questions for Professor Karlamova? Well, if there are no questions, I have at least one. You mentioned the difficulty in acquiring interested students for this sort of program. And frankly, I'm quite pleased to see a woman professor presenting this paper. But my guess would be, if I would look across our programs here in Germany, that the programs probably aren't too different in Ukraine in the terms of their gender makeup, that women are vastly underrepresented in this area. Is that correct?
Well, in Ukraine, actually, for example, I won't say about official master degree programs because, for example, the Faculty of Economics on the specialty economics cybernetics that is quite mathematically oriented, we mostly have actually women gender prevailing. So it's not like such change and differences. But if we would consider, for example, Vodafone Kyiv School of Economics, where the adult experts in other fields, or for example, adult engineers, graduates of mathematical faculty, they come to these programs to receive additional knowledge in data science, in skills of in economic skills. Most of them are male gender, but quite high percent of females. And we should keep in mind that mostly they are supposed to be top managers and highly paid qualified specialists in future after graduating these programs. Maybe as well is some kind of glass ceiling for top management and for high salaries. But I guess it's not a case of Ukraine actually, especially nowadays.
Okay, thank you very much. Other questions for Professor Karlamova?
I see that Vitaly has a question. Let me read. How correspond learning outcomes and common represent master degree programs? And did you introduce learning outcomes which differ from standards? Actually, no. That is the issue that we really would like to put this program in the real world. So at the economic faculty, that's why we, from the very beginning, started to make all components according to their standards and to the law. Especially inside of our group, we have the Garant of Economics Cybernetics Master Degree Program, Stavitsky Andrei. That's why we first would like to change this component inside of Economics Cybernetics program, but then decided that it would be quite hard deal and more easily to open new program. But we still have a concern how to deal it, because even Economics Cybernetics program nowadays has a shortage of applicants. Frankly speaking, in our close audience, it's not open this audience for the students, so I don't make some misadvertising or black advertising, but still we have a shortage of applicants. It doesn't mean that we hardly manage to cover the open positions, but still it would be better if we have more applicants for each position.
Are there additional questions? See, we've got one thank you. I'm sure we all want to thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions, then I'm going to close this session and say thank you to everyone who presented or contributed to the papers that were presented. There's a lot of food for us to think about and reflect on and digest. And sitting here in Germany, Jan-Hendrik, are you in Germany also? Or are you in Ukraine?
No, I'm in Germany too.
You're in Germany too. Well, it's a little early for dinner for us, but for our Ukrainian colleagues, they've got a lot. They should have a lot to talk about over dinner this evening, and I wish them good and fruitful discussions, and look forward to having ICTERI in person next year.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Okay, well, thank you again to everyone, and I wish you a good evening and a fruitful rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
I give a shout out to Valeria. It's nice to see you too, Valeria. It's been a long time.
Nice to see you too.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you for this grateful event. Due to your help, we can prepare it in hybrid and distance format, and I am very grateful to all of you. We can continue our work. So thank you so much. Very. I hope what we can match in nearest future. In not only online but physically, and I hope it will be very fruitful collaboration in such case, no less than now in hybrid format. So thank you so much for all participants, and I will be very great to see you next time. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.